Let's talk about arguments for the existence of God today. Leibniz, for example, was a fan and defended what he called the principle of sufficient reason. Everything that exists has a sufficient reason for why it occurred rather than nothing or something incompatible with it. So often the cosmological argument becomes attached to the principle of sufficient reason, PSR, as it's referred to in the literature. And so people who want to resist the cosmological argument focus on attacking PSR. For example, if you look at Hume's dialogues concerning natural religion, you see him questioning the adequacy of PSR. What should we say about PSR and cosmological reasoning in general? Well, the answer is the reasoning is not as conclusive as it might have looked 3 or 4 centuries ago for a couple of reasons. First, PSR has been questioned quite widely. There are truths that we don't need to explain except by explaining their parts, for example. So suppose there's 3 people in the room with you. Why are you there? Why are the other people there? Okay, now suppose you have an explanation for the presence of each of the people in the room. There's also an additional fact. The additional fact is the fact of the 3 people being in the room simultaneously. How do we explain that fact? You explain the presence of each of the 3 people that are in the room. You explain the existence of the general fact by appeal to the explanations of the particular facts. But suppose somebody says, no, the general fact is not the same as the conjunction of the particular facts. They would be right in general as a point of logic, but maybe they're not right as a point about what needs explanation and what doesn't. We will talk more about this when we do some of the readings on the cosmological argument for the course. In any case, maybe it's enough to explain a general fact by explaining the particular parts that make it up. Now, the universe, the existence of the universe itself, is the most gigantic general fact you can think about, right? It's the existence of everything from first to last. And maybe all you do to explain that is explain the individual specific pieces. So anyway, one of the worries about the cosmological argument is the principle of sufficient reason itself. Maybe it needs to be qualified, and maybe once you qualify it, it puts no pressure on you to explain the existence of the universe as such. Okay, that's one concern. We'll talk more about that criticism and issue when we get to the readings. A second issue is the fundamentally probabilistic nature of current physics. So one way to challenge the principle of sufficient reason is as I described earlier, but here's a more fundamental, more interesting challenge to it in my estimation. The more interesting challenge is maybe the fundamental laws of physics, maybe the fundamental laws of the universe are irreducibly probabilistic. So think about radioactive decay. The half-life of a substance tells you something about its likelihood to decay over a certain amount of time. The half-life tells you that the probability is 0.5 that any individual particle decays within a certain amount of time. Now that probability is irreducible. You can't explain it in terms of something more fundamental, we are told. And so it's just there. It's built into the fundamental laws of nature. Now, if that's true, you're going to have events that occur that have no explanation. They are simply chancy events. And one should not say, well, they're explained by chance. No, chance is not a thing that causes things. The story as to why the event happened appeals to chance, but chance doesn't explain things in that sense. It is not a cause because it's not a concrete entity. So suppose you think that way, then you have a second way of challenging cosmological reasoning. You say, well, the story, the explanation, might leave things as irreducibly probabilistic, and hence the explanation is fundamentally that of chance. Why is there something rather than nothing? Irreducibly, fundamentally, it's just a matter of chance. We will talk more about that, especially when we read the Van Inwagen piece, a fascinating piece that argues that the answer to the question, why is there something rather than nothing, does not support any piece of cosmological reasoning.